Hi, everybody. Wanted to get you a quick update on where things stand with the various commercial and residential rent disputes that we've seen crop up as a result of the coronavirus pandemic. For those of you who haven't tuned into some of the longer length versions of these, essentially it's no surprise commercial tenants, especially retail tenants, are having difficulty making rental payments. Some larger chains are actually straight refusing to pay for April and probably May. But tenants of all stripes are affected. Residential tenants, if they've lost their job or if they can't operate their business, they're also affected. So even though they're able to use their residence, probably now more than ever, doesn't mean that they can necessarily make their rent payment. We're watching New York City, even though it affects the whole state and, in fact, the whole tri-state area. New York City is kind of at the vanguard because there is so much rental inventory, both commercial and residential. So what happened this week? Well, when it comes to negotiations that we've been involved with, whether representing the landlord or the tenant, we're finding that in most cases it's a wait and see. Certainly there are discussions going on about deferring rent. I guess in some cases maybe forgiving rent, but more often than not it's about deferring the rent and amortizing it sometime later in the rental term. But why aren't we seeing more deals actually put together and agreed to? Well, it's very simple. There are a few things that are going on in the background that everybody's kind of waiting to see how that impacts it. One, there's an obvious one, the Paycheck Protection Program, which business owners and sole proprietors alike have been looking to see if they can get additional funding put into those programs. The House did pass that. So now it looks like there'll be another round and maybe more smaller businesses and even solos will be able to get those much needed funds and maybe they'll be able to pay the rent. It's one of the things that it can be used for. The other thing is, New York State legislator is looking into rent relief provisions. New York City Council this week advised that they're going to be introducing a whole suite of new bills that are going to be looked at over the next week and a half that could have a huge impact on the negotiations and, really the landscape for leasing and rental activity going forward for the next couple of years, I would say. So what are some of those things? Well, right now Governor Cuomo has a 90-day stay on evictions. We're about a month into that. There's talk of extending that for 6 months beyond the state of emergency. There's also talk of extending into next April a stay on any marshals or sheriffs actually executing on evictions and seizing property for evicted tenants. So that's effectively going to extend it for a year if that gets put into place. There's also talk of fines ranging from $2,000 to $10,000 for residential leases, or $10,000 to $50,000 for commercial leases that'll be imposed against landlords that harass tenants who are protected by these provisions. So I think that the City Council, and I'm sure New York State Legislature, recognize that there's more at play than just what the rules say, right? There's going to be some pressure from the landlords and in some cases from the tenants to get their way in the negotiations. So those protections are there. What else? There's also some talk, and again, it's not clear which of these will actually pass. There's talk of limiting or eliminating the personal liability of a guarantor on a commercial lease for businesses that are impacted. What does that mean? I'm taking that to mean businesses that cannot operate because of the New York State on pause order. That's going to be one of the more controversial bills, but this is all new. This is all novel. So we're watching it closely over the next week and a half. We do expect that at least the areas just outside New York City will probably follow suit, and they're going to let New York City lead the way when it comes to this protective legislation. I just saw earlier, actually, that the governor of New Jersey, I think, has stated that tenants can I don't know if it's that they can request or if landlords must apply the security deposit before coming after a tenant for rent then due. Have to take a look at that when it kind of flashed across the screen right before I hit record. But the governments in New York State and the surrounding states are all over this issue. So if you're out there either as a tenant or a landlord and you feel like you're under pressure, you are not alone, and we're here to help. And obviously, our elected officials are doing the best they can. So that was a little bit longer than I think I intended to talk on the subject, but it's important stuff, and we'll keep on top of it for you. Everybody, stay well.